Good evening. How are you guys doing tonight? I have to say today was a really good day. It went by, I think, really quickly, but overall it was really good. Had a good breakfast with my husband and had some mimosas during that time. I tried strawberry mimosas for the very first time in my life that I can remember anyway, because I normally have the orange ones, which are the general ones we think of, but I had the strawberry ones and they were pretty good. And then I came home, had a little bit of coffee, and chilled out for a bit before running my errands. I found some shoes, including some sandals, since we're approaching the warmer weather. And of course, comfort's first and foremost with me. So, got a really comfortable pair of sandals. I got a really cool pair of shoes by Skechers, where the bottom is curved in such a way where when you walk, it's like I feel like I'm walking on pillows, which is really nice, but it kind of like rolls. So I think that's really going to help me with these 12-hour shifts I'm doing. So when I saw them, I'm like, oh yeah, I need these shoes in my life. And then after that, I got some sweet tea from McAllister's because their sweet tea is good, you know. I went to Walmart, finished getting some stuff for Noah's birthday bash on Saturday. His birthday isn't until May 3rd, but we're doing his birthday weekend this weekend since I got to work next weekend. So, and it works out. He's hoping for a phone. He's getting older. Between you and me, well, let's just say it's looking in his favor. My hubby found something that will work. And so of course I've got the stuff to do cakes. He loves to make cakes, so I'll be doing one that is s'mores, and then another one which will be vanilla with like Oreo cookies crumbled with the birthday cake filling in the center. I'll do that, and the icing will be red. I usually I clean the toys, so I'll have like two different characters, and I generally have the boys pick the one they think would win. So they're still at an age where they would be into that, but I'm thinking by the time we approach 14, he may not be into that, but he liked my idea. I think his favorite cakes of mine were the ones that I made one year with aliens. So it was the good and the bad alien, and the boys had to pick which one they thought would win. And with mine, I don't mess around with sugar, so I really embellish it or decorate it a lot with Sour Patch Kids, that rainbow sour candy, to where the kids are literally on these sugar highs, like they've got all this energy, so I can make a cake, and I think for the adults, they just pull off what they don't want. And then I've got a very exciting thing coming up. So on May 11th, I'm about to get a tattoo that I was very much inspired by the Talisman Oracle. As far as like, I was very inspired yesterday, combining different symbols and tweaking it to make it my own. So I'm going to leave that totally wide open. And so once I get my tattoo on May 11th, of course, I'll show you guys how it pans out. But this tattoo is going to be just full of so much meaning. And I'm having the same guy who did my Star Wars tattoos do the tattoo for me. So he and I met today for the consultation, and I haven't seen him in many years. So it was really cool to catch up on our families, how, he blew up really big, and now he's taking the time to slow down and be that family man. And, it was good. And, we got to talk tattoos, of course. So I'm really looking forward to getting this done. And yeah, and then I made banana bread. So I owed my husband banana bread for his birthday, and the kids were all craving my banana bread as well, because I have a pretty good recipe for it. So I busted that out today too. So I didn't get everything done today that I wanted to do, but I would still say it was a successful day. If you look at it from that viewpoint, I did get some stuff done. So tonight, we're going to go ahead and delve into the Pentacles. We're halfway through it as of tonight. So we're about to cover the Five of Pentacles. And, you know, with a lot of these cards, you can derive so much meaning just by looking at them. So take in what we usually look at. So what are these central characters doing? Are they looking away or toward, you know, me and you? What's going on in the backdrop? How does this card make you feel? Does it make you uncomfortable, comfortable, maybe a bit anxious? What type of feelings do you feel when you look at this scene? So I feel like a lot of us, I hate to say all, I don't like blanket statements at all, but I would say most of us have been at this juncture in life where we suffer a loss, whether it be, say, a death of a loved one, a loss of a job, loss of income, and so forth. And we feel like we have hit, if it doesn't feel like rock bottom, it's pretty darn near it. And with the fives, excuse me, with tarot, any of the fives, we're halfway through that journey in the suit. We're always talking about conflict. So here is the Roman numeral for 5. And so what we see is a snowy backdrop. So I imagine it's very cold since we're predominantly seeing snow falling. And then there's snow on the ground. One of the characters here is barefoot. So he doesn't even have shoes to wear, and he's trying to keep warm by clutching that shawl close to him. And then here is this character who does not look to be in a good state of health, to where this individual appears to have, you know, suffered an injury of some sort. Not really healthy looking, torn clothes. And in the backdrop, we see a church. And so we see the window with the stained glass, which I always thought is one of the prettiest parts of any church, would be the stained glass, right? It's, to this day, it's one of my favorite things with windows. I love stained glass. So, but here's the thing. So even though these two figures, again, male or female, it doesn't matter. We're talking about the energy. They're pretty low, pretty down and out. They're not even looking toward the church. I think that is really significant to consider. Sorry, my eye's itching. Because if they were to go inside this church, they could have warmth in the form of shelter. They could have, say, a priest or what have you, to talk to about what's going on. They generally have food in churches. They could possibly obtain food and even find out about resources that could help them. However, one of the shadow sides to this card that we're seeing, and it's a painful thing to go through, it's where these people, like last night when we talked about the Four of Pentacles, with that energy was very much successful and had acquired quite a bit of the material wealth that we talk about when it comes to Pentacles. Here it's suffering that loss. So it's been a big hit to the ego to go from being established and successful, right, to this current state. And, you know, it could be as a result of our own actions, but then again, it could also be a result of how life happens, to where the unexpected could come up and it hits us hard. And I think one of the things that's so hard to do is to reach out and ask for help. We so frequently, we want to help others, but it's so hard for ourselves if somebody offers to accept it. So a little bit of their pride and egos getting in the way, because with this Rider-Waite-Smith card, you don't see an entryway into the church. All we have is that single window, which is above them, and they are both looking away from the church. Okay. So when I see this, I pretty well perceive it that there's a disconnect between, say, spirit in whatever shape or form faith takes in the individual. And it's very understandable. They're very much, more than likely, very resentful and angry toward their God, that they revere, like, how could you do this to me? Especially if they're thinking in the context that I've done A, B, and C. Why would you allow this to happen to me? Which is probably one of the most frequently asked questions that we ask of, say, God, would be like, why did you allow this? Or things that happen in our world we'll never have an answer for. Why do you allow it to happen? And many years ago, I went to a Lutheran church. That question actually was brought up when I met with a pastor like once a week. I was assessing if that faith would be a good fit for me. That's why I was, meeting with a pastor once a week at that time. And I asked him that question, like, why does God allow, this all-powerful God, allow all these bad things to happen in the world? And his simple response to that, from that viewpoint and that faith, is that Jesus Christ died for our sins because we are sinners. If we were not flawed and we were not sinners, then he would not have needed to die. And then back during that time frame, people did not have the ability to have access to the Word of God. The Pharisees cut that off with the curtain. And so he wanted to remove that curtain to where all people, even the outcasts of society, the leper, Jezebels, you name it, everybody had access to this word. So, he basically told me that even though Jesus Christ had died for our sins and all that, that it did not eliminate that we would suffer in this life. And he basically, ended the conversation with talking about how, like, Jesus Christ was a role model that none of us will ever meet, but because especially you saw how people treated him, but to try to be good to people, and I'm not trying to turn this teach a moment to a sermon, but that's kind of like what I felt drawn to tell you guys, as far as like human suffering. And no matter what shape or form or name your God is called, or if you're an agnostic or atheist, or you don't consider yourself spiritual, but you're into tarot, that is the loaded question about human suffering. And I think it's a very complex topic, to put it simply, right? So, as you can kind of surmise from what I've been talking about so far, so with like relationships, we are looking at, say, if someone's still engaged in a relationship, they may feel very distant and detached from the person they're in a relationship with, whether it be romantic or platonic. It could be the end of a relationship and they're grieving that loss, because loss is one of the key words to this card. We are suffering a loss that has impacted us or the people we read for to their core. With work, it could be the loss of a job. It could be a reduction in the pay to where now they're thinking, gosh, how am I going to make ends meet and pay my bills because they reduced my income? Or, like feeling like an outcast at work. So say if someone does not feel like they're part of the group, they feel outside of it, that can lead to this feeling, because what we're dealing with are energies that are on the outside of what a church would generally be, an area with a congregation in it, with a group of people. Here, they feel very much alone. With finances, like we were alluding to here, it's the loss of financial stability, especially if it's an unexpected illness, say an accident. There's something that you could not plan for that occurred to you or someone you love, and you're grieving that. And then, of course, it impacted your whole life about making ends meet at that point, one of the blessings that can come from hitting rock bottom like this, and it was even brought up in some of the stuff I read, is it will put you on a different life path, like a different trajectory, where you will meet people that you would not have met otherwise if you had remained on your other life path. It can change the way you look at yourself and the world around you and others. And sometimes it's for the good. And sometimes we don't know what's good for us. And so I feel like that's kind of like fate stepping in and being like, okay, I'm going to throw you a curveball. I mean, including me. Hey, I've had some curveballs in life. I'm sure you guys have too. So I'm going to read through the descriptors here. So let's see, one of the big takeaways too with this, because it could also be a way of thinking, because remember last night's tarot teaching moment, the Four of Pentacles energy was all afraid of doing anything with that financial stability and could not take action because they were literally hanging on so tight to their money for fear of losing it, right? Especially if they had went without, if they had been in this state, this is what they were afraid of. But be careful if this has not occurred to you, but your mind is kind of getting ahead of you with the what ifs. As an overthinker, which I admit I am one, and I have to work on that probably my whole life. It's just how my brain is wired. We have to keep our thoughts within an appropriate, realistic context, because what we do is we create problems and narratives that don't even exist. Seriously, which is very self-defeating. And especially, like I've alluded to in other go lives, our brain is a very complex thing. It drives all of our processes, right? In the body, our perception, you name it. So if we think negative, okay, think of it like your glasses. A negative mindset will color the way that you see your world. It will then take on, you've got intent going on, right? If you've already made up your mind that some horrible interaction or something bad's going to happen, and you believe it, you sincerely put your belief in this, it will manifest because you're willing it. Like, I know that's kind of a complex concept. So it's why it's so important, if you are worried about something, to try your very best to approach it pragmatically and ask for help as needed to provide it into a very structured context, instead of the worry that can be all consuming and just not good for your health. Like, stress is not good for any of us, right? And it's okay to ask help from, say, a financial advisor, or, say if you're in school, and because student loans are no joke, and they do come after us when we graduate. They want that money back, right? Well, they can catch up to us, asking for help with that. Bankruptcies happen, that to any of us, and feeling that rock bottom and that loss, right? And having to kind of start over. It's just life. It's just not an easy thing, is it? So just be very careful about how you think is the main takeaway of this, because a negative mindset, that can lead to manifestation. Okay. So for descriptors, we're looking at financial loss, losing a job or relationship, a physical hardship. It could be a shared hardship. There's two people in this picture and they're both not doing so great. Illness or health issues, adversity, struggle. So with love, we're looking at isolation, lonely. It's a hurt ego. Somebody's pride is hurt. They do not feel safe and secure. Career, it's work hardship, feeling like an outcast. Finances, it's poverty, debt, bankruptcy type finances. And I had alluded to with the simples, with no entryway to the church, they are distant from their faith and they're looking away from it. So they're not getting help where there is help available. And they are very much turned inward, very much focused forward on their plight. Again, they do not see the warmth, hope, and spiritual support that is offered, say, within that church, you know. And they're also not looking like, how do I put this? Even our little guy here is not looking toward that window. You see where his eyes are? So you see how with the stained glass in this very dreary landscape, we have pops of color. There is a beauty and a brightness to be seen if only one takes a moment to look up and to be grateful. Even in our lowest times, we can all take a lesson to do that. Because if we fail to look up at the beauty that's surrounding us with our friends, family, the world, the things that are going well in our life, it's so easy to feel very caught up and sucked into the things not going well, and even hyper focus on the thing, the interaction, or the thing that didn't go well, losing sight of our own stained glass window. So what does your stained glass window look like? What are the people and things that would be in your stained glass window that no matter what happens to you in life, that is your window where you're safe and loved and accepted? It doesn't have to be a Christian church. Whatever shape or form that takes is a beautiful thing, and I would invite you to embrace that. Now, what we're looking at with the reversals, and again, I love it when reversals are better than the upright meanings, because it shows that it's a dismissal of that myth in tarot that all reversals are bad. No, they're not. And that's why, again, I do not like blanket statements. The all or nothing type way of looking at things. There's always a gray area. And like I've said in other teaching moments, if reversals do not resonate with you, then just don't read them. There's no hard set rules to tarot, you know. So we're looking at an improvement, right? So with relationships, we're looking at people actually talking and reestablishing that rapport to where they don't feel distant from each other. It could be that single person who has worked through some issues of loss and, you know, looking to move forward. They're very much ready to go into a new relationship. With career is forming a good working relationship with the people they work with and feeling like one of the team. You don't dread work so bad when you work with people you actually like to work around. That's a blessing, right? And no, it's not realistic to think we're going to like everybody we work with. And no, you're not going to be friends with everybody you work with. But if a friendship pans out from it, consider it a blessing, right? And then with finances, we're looking at getting right back on our feet with finances and finding our footing and our stability. But again, one of the major takeaways from this card is, please, if it's for yourself or others, you don't be afraid to ask for help to reach this beautiful reversed energy, right? So, like, to kind of go over the descriptors, we have a relief of suffering, positive changes, recovering from loss, which is the key word, is loss in some shape or form. So with love and friendships, we're looking at improved relationships, okay? Career, we're looking at those good working relationships. And finances, saving, paying off debts, and recovery. You know, like my daddy used to say growing up, he would tell me, and it's really stuck with me after all these years. He would be like, every hound dog has its day. And I actually think hound dogs are cute. But it does hold some truth to it. Right when we feel like we've reached our rock bottom, there's nowhere left to go but up. We choose that, though. I mean, life happens to us, but we choose our mindset and we choose our actions, how we're moving forward. Okay. And it's really, I like the way that Chris Sann and the Light Seers Tarot did this. So we see a lady very much, she does not look like she's feeling very well at all. Very much turned inward with her head down. And we have this wooden door with the 5 Pentacles. And there we have a keyhole, but look, there's a key. Now, this kind of gives me like Alice in Wonderland vibes because this door seems so much bigger than our central character here. However, this keyhole and this key are within her reach. All she's got to do, despite feeling really down and out, surrounded by all this darkness, right? That she's probably feeling like she's kind of drowning a bit in and feeling very disheartened. Walk toward the light. Look up at that stained glass window, your source of light, okay? Your illumination, your sun, your warmth, okay? Whatever that looks like. Get that theoretical key and find your way out. You know, that I love the empowerment of this card. I feel like it's okay to process like she is. It's okay to experience pain, disappointment, instead of not experiencing these feelings, because I dislike the idea that people have to feel like they need to be happy all the time. That is so not realistic. I would rather have somebody be very real, saying, you know, if when I ask them how they're doing and they tell me, you know, I'm not doing fine, then okay, well, what's going on? And then I'll listen and see if I can help them or not. And if not, then and they need resources, and I'll help them look for those or get them in touch with somebody that could help them. Because if they're reaching out for help, then, you know, you do the best you can by people. But I feel like, yeah, life happens to us, but it's all in how we choose to respond to it, right? So I really love the empowerment with this card and that light that is to be had, if only instead of, again, not looking upward, we look up, right? There is hope to be had. With this one, it's a little bit of a different picture. So here we do see the entryway into, I don't know, I would imagine it might be a church. It's kind of hard to say. We do have that illumination here. And we do have this lady, which I was uncertain by looking at this, if this is a nun or not. But it looks like two people who are kind of down and out, comforting each other, and just, again, looking very sad. And there's light to be had. It's possible, it's hard to say with this card, if the person in the doorway put them out there and maybe that was their home and they're having to leave the only home they knew to start over, or if this is some place of refuge and this is a person that wants to help them. So you see how that could go either way. I think it leaves a lot to be said for perception and what we see when we look at this, you know. But either way, her arms are outstretched. So I tend to lean toward the latter, that this is somebody trying to welcome these people with open arms, seeing their fellow human beings not doing so great and wanting to be of help to them, you know. So it just depends on how you look at it. But I do love the art in that picture. So with this one, we see our little crow friends. And you see how at the base of this tree, there's a lot of water. And we're not talking still water either. This water has movement, which is a nod to when we learned about the cups. So the water is synonymous with emotion. And what we have here are these huge waves. So there's a lot of turmoil. This tree is a rather big tree. So despite the chaos and all this water, its roots are holding the tree up. Okay. So here we have two crows that are still not letting go of their losses. Very much the turned inward grieving phase, right? Well, the other three are up here, okay, with the 5 Pentacles. And it's kind of like somebody, if they're having to evacuate their home, they're going to grab the most valuable things to kind of help them start anew, especially if there are things that are not replaceable, family heirlooms and so forth, money, that type of thing, so they can buy food and seek shelter. So these little guys are already looking forward, thinking, okay, this is not an environment we can live in. So they're already looking forward, determining, okay, how am I going to move forward from this? Right? Even though things look bleak, there's a lot of dark blues, blacks, a lot of uncertainty with the cloud cover. But I think one of the big takeaways with this card, it's a very powerful word, would be hope, you know. So, and I think as human beings, we do cling a lot to hope. And then with this final card from the Hush Tarot, this is from a deck that's not Rider-Waite-Smith based. And I always end my tarot teaching moments with these to demonstrate it's really important if you're learning tarot, have an interest in it, to get you a deck based on Rider-Waite-Smith. So with this one, I'm not sure. It looks like, I'm not sure if she's immersed in water because you see like these bubbles all around her, but her eyes are closed. It's kind of like this ashen color, or it's kind of like a coppery stone type thing. It looks very kind of disengaged. It could be representative of the feeling of drowning, feeling very tangled up in, say, whatever situation that has been a loss for them, and not being able to see the light or the surface, right? So I could see that. So I don't hate this card or anything like that, but I think if someone's learning that they're not going to get the same meaning as what they would from a deck based in the Rider-Waite-Smith, like the previous examples. So I'll hold these up for your just comparison between the two, you know. I think this is one of my favorites. I really love that. And I love the crow one too. So, yeah, I think that wraps us up on tonight's tarot teaching moment. And I really, you know, I'm grateful for you guys. My little tried and true people that are in my group that I can't put into words how grateful I am for your support and encouragement. Especially with these tarot teaching moments. I've gotten so much good feedback and so forth. So I'm really enjoying being on this journey with you guys. And I realize that this week has been a rougher week on all of us due to the Mercury retrograde. And that reading I did for us on Sunday, I can see it play out this week with different things. So I hope you guys are all like hanging in there and leaning into your faith and your support systems. And just know, take it a day at a time. And just know if you do your best, that you can take comfort in that. Even if things didn't pan out the best in your daily lives, that is a victory, that you got up out of bed, got dressed, and you did your best anyway. So that is a victory. And of course, as always, if you need a reading, look me up and we'll figure out a date and a time to do that. And I think that sums it up for tonight. So I hope you guys get a lot of good sleep in tonight, and I will see you later. Bye.